Hey everyone, and welcome back to another King Arthur Legends Rise video. Today's video, I want to talk about Merlin, who is one of the rate-up summons that we have right now after a global launch, along with Guinevere. So Guinevere is a good hero. She's a little niche though. However, her nicheness is actually in areas that can be quite annoying if you don't have her. So it's like a different level of niche. But she's a good general hero. However, Merlin is better. So that's why I wanted to talk about him today. I think he's one of the top 3 heroes in the game, behind Bedivere and Morgan. He's a great progression champ. You can use him in almost any dungeon. So yeah, I did want to talk about him. So quick note on these banners. You do have a guaranteed legendary pity at 60 summons. It's a 50-50 chance that you get the hero that's on the rate up banner. But something to note is this pity does not carry over once the banner is done. So if you have, let's say you summon 50 times on this banner and you haven't gotten your legendary yet, and then the timer runs out, it will not carry over. So you only want to summon on these banners if you're planning on summoning at least 60 times. All right. So something to mention there. All right. So whenever you're looking at heroes, a couple things that you want to pay attention to. The first one is the hero's passives. So this is something that will always stay the same on these heroes. It does not change. I have to mention that because King Arthur Legends Rise has a unique thing to it, which is these relics. These relics are your hero's weapons, and the weapons actually tie into the character's skills. So when you summon a hero, they come with a base weapon, which in Merlin's case is Lunar Fang, which is a frost type weapon. But he also has the ability to have a storm weapon and a fire weapon. And the thing is the skills that Merlin has, like this is his skill 3 on his frost weapon. He attacks all enemies 2 times for this 88% attack and has a chance to freeze somebody. But on his Storm Relic, he attacks enemies 2 times and then has a chance to inflict confusion and silence instead of the freeze. Also on the Fire Weapon, he actually grants allies buffs. And, so crit damage, debuff immunity, he charges Vigor, and then he has attack gauge disruption on people. So the relics themselves change the hero significantly. But whenever you're summoning the hero off the bat, you want to know what their base type is. And in Merlin's case, he is Frost. So we'll go over his relics, here in a second. But the thing that does not ever change on heroes are their passive abilities, which they call their skills. Okay. The relics are relic skills, and then the hero have their own individual skills. So let's talk about Merlin's skills. So he has a passive called Clear Morning, and it says whenever he uses skill 2, while his HP is 50% or higher, he changes the weather to day. Now this is also important. Sometimes heroes have the ability to gain additional stats or buffs depending on the weather. This is another kind of unique thing within King Arthur Legends Rise that I like. I haven't paid attention to it too much. However, I'm sure this is going to play an important role with the characters that you have in specific dungeons. But it is nice whenever you have the ability to actually change the weather to benefit your heroes. If you see up here, this little icon up here says that he prefers day, and he gets additional buffs based on that weather. Another thing that takes place with some of your heroes is they'll have some leader effects. So Merlin has a great leader effect. In all battles, you'll just take 10% less damage. Absolutely amazing. So yeah, he's got a great leader ability. And we talked about his passive here. So if he uses his skill 2, he changes the weather today, which benefits him, and then he recharges Vigor up to +5. So if you use this as your first skill, When his HP is higher than 50%, he's going to recharge all of his vigor. So very strong first passive. And then if you level it up, he'll be able to use this again, and then the cooldown time will go up. So right now the cooldown is just 1 turn because you can only use this once, per battle, and then it's gone. But if you level it up, you're able to use this a second time after the cooldown decreases. So his second passive is whenever he uses his third skill, he grants all allies defense increase 2 for 1 turn, and then he grants all allies recovery over time for 1 turn. Very strong passive ability. So not only does Merlin have, control abilities, but now he also has buffs to your defense and gives you a little bit of healing. If you skill this up, your defense and your recovery over time buffs last for more than 1 turn. This is nice so you don't really have to speed tune, because whenever you're first starting off the game, you don't really have your heroes speed tuned. So if he's going like first in the turn order and he puts up these defense increase and recovery over time, if it's just for 1 turn, it's not going to have a real lasting impact. However, if you get the +1 turns, it's going to be pretty nice, and then you can reduce the cooldown to this down to 3 turns. And then his last passive is whenever he's using his skill 3. If his HP is lower than 30%, he revives all of your dead allies with 20% of their max HP, and if you skill it up, they get revived with 30% HP. So this is a good ability. However, I've noticed that this isn't as strong as it reads. It's nice in a pinch. However, speed tuning tends to matter with this skill. So yeah, his passives, as you see, pretty strong. And one thing I do want to mention is how to level up these skills, because if you guys are watching, you probably just started a couple days ago and you have no idea where to get this. These items are pretty hard to come by. You can only do this dungeon 5 times a day, this Master of Death. And in order to scale up to the legendary talismans, which is what you need to level up these passives, it's pretty tough. There's a couple areas to get them. The main one being the story mode. So in the hard mode, you can see here at chapter 3, if you get 3-star clears, you actually have a selector of 7 of these. This is huge. This is where I've gotten all of mine so far. So I'm working on, farming up some more in chapter 4 here. Otherwise, I would have to progress through the sealed temple on this hero skill level up, Master of Death. And I wouldn't get it until level 5, and right now I'm stuck on level 4. So being able to clear the hard mode with 3-star clears is allowing me to level up my legendary hero skills a little bit faster than what I would have. But that's how you level those up. So we'll jump back and forth between these passives and these relic skills to talk about, how his passives affect this. So on his relic, we've already talked about this, but he attacks all enemies 2 times, and then he has the ability to freeze those enemies. If you skill up these abilities, he has the ability to bump this up from 35% up to 55%, and it increases his damage. The thing with Merlin is he actually has some pretty decent damage. So if you don't want to build him like as a control unit, he's an okay damage dealer. The reason I mention this is most people right now, they're probably building up Kay, which is a storm hero, and she is weak against fire units, right? So I think people tend to struggle with fire enemies. So if you pull Merlin and you build him just with a little bit of strength, he can be a decent damage dealer in the frost, element. So that's his A3. So his attack 2 is he attacks one enemy 4 times with a decent damage multiplier, And then he has a 100% chance to inflict this Frozen Remains debuff, which is really nice. So this puts this on any of the enemies. And whenever that enemy is hit, it grants damage taken decrease to the attacker. So whenever you attack the enemy that has this Frozen Remains on them, you will then take less damage. It gives you like a buff. You also get damage over time immunity for 2 turns. And then you have a 90% chance to recharge your attack gauge by 30%. So this is just an amazing debuff. His other relics we won't really go over because it's very hard to come by those. And you're just basing it on whenever you summon Merlin, what you can do. But I really think the Frost Relic is probably one of his best anyway. So yeah, this is a very strong ability. This is the ability that you're going to be using the most. You really aren't going to use this third attack, which is good because it costs 3 vigor. You're going to have a lot more time and opportunities to utilize this ability. So even if you can't skill this up to have the Frozen Remains last for 2 turns, this is going to be up most of the time anyway because you're going to be utilizing his skill 2. So then on his skill 1, he just attacks an enemy 3 times with a total damage and the chance to freeze. So this is important because the very first dungeon that is important to level up your heroes is a enemy boss that has a shield. So these multi-hit attacks 3 times and 4 times really help you take down the shield. So good damage, really great debuff on that Frozen Remains and multiple hits. Along with some pretty strong passives, right? You have the ability to change this today, increase your vigor, and then also, if you are using that skill 3, you do get an increase in defense and a little bit of healing. So another thing to pay attention to on heroes, and this is going to be a rare case, is their Chivalry. So if you get an additional copy of this hero, you then have the ability to level up his Chivalry and get additional bonuses. So Merlin's Chivalry 1, so if you get 1 extra copy of him, he has this long-awaited hope, which grants all allies Light of Dawn. And what that reads is whenever the weather is day, right, which his skill 2 passive allows him to change the weather to day, all of your heroes will regain 2% of their HP every turn. So, like, that's what I'm getting at. He gives your heroes buffs. He puts a really great debuff on the enemy, which charges your attack gauge, gives you DOT immunity, you know. And then also, I forget what the last one was there. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, and you take less damage. So, yeah, just a fantastic support hero. The way that you want to build him, again, if you guys are just starting, you just throw gear on him, okay? But there's 2 different ways to build him. You can either have, higher crit rate and crit damage, build him as kind of an attack unit, or you can have some effect accuracy on him to try and build up, the ability to control heroes for waves during campaign, with the freezes. This effect accuracy will matter in regards to landing his second skill here, the Frozen Remains. So you do need enough accuracy to land that. However, the amount of accuracy that I have on him is way too high. I just don't have any better gear to put on him. So, yeah, this is how I have my Merlin built. The helmet, chest, and boots, these are a lot easier to get good pieces on because the main stat always stays the same. However, on the necklace, the earrings, and the ring, this is a little bit more difficult to get decent main stats on. So I have him on effect accuracy on the necklace. I have him on critical strike rate on the earrings, and then I also have him on defense percentage. So he is mainly just a support control unit for me. However, I do want to eventually change him to, an attack or damage dealer, with just enough effect accuracy to land his skill 2. Because I think if I can get his damage up a little bit, he's going to help me pass stage 9 of Penveed. So, talking about Penveed, this Plane of Beasts, this is where you can use him. You can use him here because he has those multi-attacks. I'm using him to farm stage 8. You can use him in Gorgos. So one of Gorgos's main things is he puts up these DOTs. And as you saw on Merlin's skill 2, he puts up that debuff that whenever one of your heroes attacks the enemy with that debuff up, Frozen Remains, they'll grant them damage over time immunity. This is a key piece to winning this dungeon against this boss. So he can be used in Gorgos. He's not really used in the Frozen Plain. You can use him, I guess, because charging your attack gauge and getting more attacks on this hero is not a bad thing. And then the Shrine of Storms, he has a weak affinity here, so I don't really know if he's used there. He's used in basically all of these equipment dungeons. He's used in the Forbidden Dungeon. He's used in the Sealed Temple. Just a fantastic hero overall. So if you are looking to pull him, I would highly suggest pulling for him. Like I said, he is a top 3 hero. If you want to see the team that I'm using in Plane of Beasts right here, this is the team I'm using. So I have my Merlin, I have the free unit Morgan, and then I have Kay and Sarah, who's a very, very strong healer. But yeah, let's go in, do a quick run, and then I will get out of here. So whenever you're on auto, you can actually change your skill settings. So for Merlin, I am prioritizing that second hit, that second skill, because it does the 4. It's a 4-hitter, as well as putting up that really good debuff that charges your attack meter. Kay, she has some multi-hits on her skill 2, and then also some multi-hits on her skill 1. Sarah has a removal of debuffs on her skill 2. The boss puts up a attack speed down that you really want to get out of there. And then her skill 2 actually is a pretty good heal and puts up defense up. Morgan on her skill 2 reduces the attack gauge on the boss, and then she puts up some pretty good damage debuffs on her skill 3. So that's how I have that. So if we put this on auto, you saw there, this is the attack speed down. So your Sarah on her skill 2 actually removes that buff, so then you can keep up with the boss. So as you see there, we have these DOT immunity, we have, decreased damage, and then he has his heal, the 2%, because it's daytime, and he had that Chivalry 1. I hope all of this is making sense. These are all of the things that he has. So here's the DOT immunity, and that's because he doesn't have it up right now, but the DOT immunity and the damage taken down is because the boss eventually had that debuff. Once Merlin puts it back up, we'll hit the search menu, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, so there's the 4-hitter, and he put up the Frozen Remains. So anytime my team hits him, they'll grant themselves DOT immunity and damage taken decrease 1. So Merlin already has the buff up. Morgan does not, and neither does Sarah, but they eventually will. They do have the DOT immunity, though, and they have a 90% chance to increase their attack gauge by 30%. So just an amazing, amazing debuff. And now that both of his tusks are destroyed, they'll be charging their attack meter. They'll be getting the damage down. All of those good things. So yeah, as you see here, like he's doing some okay damage, but he's keeping the team healthy with the heal over time. He's putting up that really important debuff, and he's doing multi-hitters to eventually take down the shield. So overall, great hero. I think he's going to be one of the best heroes for people to progress throughout the game. And like I said, he scales into the end game. So here's the shield. He's got 16 shield, but Kay and Merlin are going to make quick work of that. So all on their turns, they already got the shield down. So ideally, if I were to do this correctly, Merlin would go first in the turn order, so then he could put up the debuff, and then people like Kay can even make use of that Frozen Remains debuff to fill their attack gauge and get all of those important buffs. So yeah, that's my team right now on this level. Hopefully scaling to level 9 here soon. But yeah, that's all I got, guys. I wanted to showcase Merlin a little bit, show why he's good, and maybe convince you to pull for him. So anyway, that's all I got. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.